The morning mist hung low over Edinburgh Castle as Sarah Mitchell, a royal historian, walked through the ancient corridors of the palace of Holyrood House. She had been summoned by the royal household to investigate a question that had been puzzling constitutional experts for months. What would happen to the Duke of Edinburgh title after Prince Philip's death? Sarah's footsteps echoed against the stone walls as she made her way to the royal archives. The weight of history pressed down on her shoulders. This wasn't just about a title. It was about centuries of tradition, family legacies, and the future of the British monarchy itself. Prince Philip had held the Duke of Edinburgh title for over 7 decades, ever since he married Princess Elizabeth in 1947. The title had become synonymous with his name, his charitable work, and his dedication to public service. But now, with his passing in April 2021, the question of succession had become urgent. Sarah pulled out the first dusty volume from the archives. The creation of the Duke of Edinburgh title dated back to 1726, when King George I granted it to his grandson, Prince Frederick. But the title had a complicated history. It had been created, extinct, and recreated multiple times throughout British history. As she read through the historical documents, Sarah discovered that the title had actually been held by several different people over the centuries. The first Duke of Edinburgh was Prince Frederick, but when he died without male heirs, the title became extinct. It wasn't until 1866 that Queen Victoria recreated the title for her second son, Prince Alfred. Prince Alfred's story fascinated Sarah. He had been a naval officer, just like Prince Philip would be many years later. Alfred had served in the Royal Navy and later became Duke of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha through marriage. His life was filled with adventure and duty, setting a pattern that would later define the role of Duke of Edinburgh. The archives revealed that Prince Alfred had used his position as Duke of Edinburgh to promote education and scientific advancement. He had been particularly interested in supporting young people, establishing scholarships, and educational programs. This legacy of supporting youth development would later become central to Prince Philip's interpretation of the role. When Prince Alfred died in 1900, the title once again became extinct because he had no surviving male heirs. For nearly half a century, there was no Duke of Edinburgh. The title lay dormant, waiting for the right moment to be revived. That moment came in 1947, when King George VI decided to grant the title to his future son-in-law, Lieutenant Philip Mountbatten, on the occasion of his marriage to Princess Elizabeth. This decision was not made lightly. The king had carefully considered the significance of reviving this particular title. Sarah found a handwritten note in the archives from King George VI explaining his choice. He wanted Philip to have a title that represented both tradition and innovation. Edinburgh, as the capital of Scotland, held special significance for the royal family. The title would give Philip a strong connection to Scottish heritage while allowing him to create his own legacy. The creation of Philip as Duke of Edinburgh in 1947 came with specific limitations that would prove crucial to understanding the title's future. The letters patent that created the title specified that it would pass to Philip's male heirs, but with important conditions. If Philip died before Elizabeth became queen, the title would return to the crown. If he died after she became queen, the title would pass to their eldest son, but only if that son was not already the heir to the throne. These conditions created a complex situation. When Elizabeth became queen in 1952, Philip retained his Duke of Edinburgh title. Their eldest son, Charles, was born in 1948 and automatically became heir to the throne as Duke of Cornwall. According to the original letters patent, Charles could potentially inherit the Duke of Edinburgh title, but the timing and circumstances would determine the exact process. Sarah realized that understanding these legal intricacies was crucial to predicting what would happen next. The title wasn't just passed down automatically like other hereditary titles. It had specific rules and conditions that had been carefully crafted to serve the monarchy's needs. As she delved deeper into Prince Philip's interpretation of the role, Sarah discovered how he had transformed the Duke of Edinburgh title into something entirely new. Philip had created the Duke of Edinburgh's award scheme in 1956, a program that encouraged young people to challenge themselves through community service, skills development, physical fitness, and adventurous expeditions. The award scheme became Philip's greatest legacy as Duke of Edinburgh. It started in Britain, but eventually spread to over 130 countries worldwide, helping millions of young people develop confidence, resilience, and leadership skills. The program embodied Philip's belief that young people needed challenges and adventures to help them grow into responsible adults. Philip's approach to the Duke of Edinburgh title was revolutionary. Previous holders had been more traditional in their interpretation, focusing mainly on ceremonial duties and regional representation. Philip turned the title into a platform for social change and youth development. He used his position to champion causes he believed in, from wildlife conservation to technological innovation. Sarah found records of Philip's correspondence with education ministers, youth organizations, and international leaders. His letters revealed a man deeply committed to using his privileged position to make a real difference in the world. The Duke of Edinburgh title became his vehicle for creating lasting change. The transformation Philip brought to the role raised important questions about the title's future. Could anyone else fill his shoes? Would the next Duke of Edinburgh continue his work, or would they create their own interpretation of the role? These questions had no easy answers, but they were crucial to understanding what the title would become. As Sarah prepared to leave the archives that evening, she reflected on what she had learned. The Duke of Edinburgh title was more than just a name or a position in the royal hierarchy. It represented a philosophy of service, a commitment to young people, and a legacy of innovation within tradition. The future of the title would depend not just on legal succession rules, but on the vision and dedication of whoever would next hold it. Prince Philip had set a high standard, transforming an ancient title into a modern force for positive change. The question now was whether that transformation could continue and in what form. Sarah locked the archive room behind her, her mind already working on the next phase of her research. She needed to understand the current legal situation, the wishes of the royal family, and the practical considerations that would influence the title's future. The story of the Duke of Edinburgh title was far from over. In fact, the most interesting chapter might be just beginning. The next morning found Sarah Mitchell in the Constitutional Law Library at the University of Edinburgh, surrounded by legal texts and constitutional precedents. She had arranged to meet with Professor James MacLeod, one of Britain's leading experts on royal succession and hereditary titles. The professor's office overlooked the Scottish Parliament building, a reminder of the complex relationship between tradition and modern governance. Professor MacLeod greeted Sarah with enthusiasm. He had been following the Duke of Edinburgh title situation closely and was eager to share his insights. As they settled into comfortable chairs surrounded by towering bookshelves, he began to explain the legal complexities that made this case so unique. The problem, Professor MacLeod explained, is that the Duke of Edinburgh title exists in a legal gray area. When Prince Philip died in April 2021, the title should have passed to Prince Charles according to the original 1947 letters patent. However, Charles was already the Duke of Cornwall and heir to the throne, which created an unprecedented situation. Sarah listened intently as the professor outlined the various legal opinions that had emerged since Philip's death. Some constitutional experts argued that Charles had automatically inherited the Duke of Edinburgh title the moment his father died. Others contended that the title had merged with the crown when Charles inherited it, effectively making it extinct again. The confusion stemmed from the unique wording of the 1947 letters patent. Unlike most hereditary titles, which pass automatically to the next in line, the Duke of Edinburgh title had been created with specific conditions that no one had fully anticipated would come into play. The legal language was clear in some respects, but ambiguous in others. Professor MacLeod pulled out a copy of the original letters patent and pointed to the crucial passages. Here it says the title will pass to Philip's heirs male of his body lawfully begotten. That clearly points to Charles. But then we have to consider what happens when the heir is already the heir to the throne. The professor explained that there was historical precedent for titles merging with the crown when inherited by the monarch or heir apparent. In such cases, the title often became extinct or was held in abeyance until it could be recreated for another family member. This precedent suggested that the Duke of Edinburgh title might have effectively disappeared when Charles inherited it. However, the situation was complicated by Charles's own wishes and those of his father. Prince Philip had reportedly expressed a desire for his youngest son, Prince Edward, to eventually inherit the Duke of Edinburgh title. This wish had been publicly acknowledged by Buckingham Palace on several occasions, but it carried no legal weight in terms of succession. Sarah learned that the royal family had been discussing this situation privately for years before Philip's death. They understood the legal complexities and had been working with constitutional lawyers to find the best solution. The goal was to honor Philip's wishes while maintaining the integrity of the constitutional framework. Professor MacLeod revealed that there had been quiet discussions about having Charles renounce the Duke of Edinburgh title so that it could be recreated for Edward. This process would require new letters patent from the monarch and would essentially start fresh with a new creation of the title. Such an approach would avoid the legal complications while achieving the desired outcome. The conversation turned to Prince Edward himself and his suitability for the Duke of Edinburgh title. Edward had always been considered the most intellectually inclined of the Queen's children, with interests in theater, arts, and education. Unlike his brothers Charles and Andrew, Edward had not pursued a military career, instead choosing to work in television production before taking on full-time royal duties. Edward's work with the Duke of Edinburgh's award scheme had been extensive and meaningful. He had served as a trustee of the program and had traveled widely to promote its expansion internationally. His involvement gave him a deep understanding of Philip's vision and the practical challenges of running such a large-scale youth development program. Sarah discovered that Edward had been quietly preparing for the possibility of inheriting the Duke of Edinburgh title for several years. He had increased his involvement with youth-focused charities and had begun developing his own ideas for expanding Philip's legacy. His approach was thoughtful and respectful of tradition while being innovative enough to meet contemporary challenges. The professor shared insights into Edward's character that weren't widely known to the public. Despite being perhaps the least visible of the Queen's children in terms of media coverage, Edward had developed a reputation within royal circles for being extremely hardworking and detail-oriented. His colleagues praised his ability to understand complex organizational challenges and develop practical solutions. Edward's wife, Sophie, had also been preparing for the increased responsibilities that would come with the Duke of Edinburgh title. She had expanded her own charitable work and had developed expertise in areas that complemented Edward's interests. Together, they represented a team that could effectively carry forward Philip's legacy while adding their own contributions. The discussion moved to the practical implications of transferring the title to Edward. The Duke of Edinburgh's award scheme alone involved complex governance structures, international partnerships, and significant financial management. Transitioning leadership of these organizations required careful planning and coordination. Professor MacLeod explained that the award scheme operated in over 130 countries through a network of licensed operators and partner organizations. Each country had its own governance structure while maintaining connection to the international framework. The Duke of Edinburgh served as the global patron and figurehead, providing leadership and continuity across all these diverse operations. The financial aspects were equally complex. The award scheme generated revenue through various sources, including participant fees, corporate sponsorships, and charitable donations. It also required significant investment in program development, staff training, and international expansion. Managing these resources effectively required sophisticated business skills and strategic vision. Sarah learned that Edward had been working closely with the award scheme's professional management team to understand these complexities. He had attended board meetings, reviewed financial reports, and participated in strategic planning sessions. This preparation demonstrated his commitment to taking on the role with full understanding of its requirements. The conversation also touched on the symbolic importance of the title beyond the award scheme. The Duke of Edinburgh represented a connection between the monarchy and Scotland, serving as a bridge between different parts of the United Kingdom. This role would be particularly important as political discussions about Scottish independence continued to evolve. Professor MacLeod emphasized that the next Duke of Edinburgh would need to understand and respect Scottish culture while representing the broader United Kingdom. This balance required diplomatic skills and cultural sensitivity that went beyond traditional royal duties. Edward's approach to this challenge would be crucial to the title's success. As their meeting drew to a close, Sarah realized that the legal questions, while complex, were actually the simpler part of the Duke of Edinburgh title situation. The real challenges involved vision, leadership, and the ability to honor Philip's legacy while creating something new and relevant for future generations. Professor MacLeod's final insight was particularly striking. The Duke of Edinburgh title has always been about transformation. Prince Philip transformed it from a dormant hereditary title into a global force for youth development. The next holder will need to transform it again, adapting to new challenges while maintaining its essential purpose. Sarah left the university that afternoon with a much clearer understanding of the constitutional framework surrounding the title. But she also had new questions about the human dimensions of the story. How would Edward approach the challenge of following in his father's footsteps? What changes would he bring to the role? And how would the broader royal family support this transition? These questions would guide her next phase of research as she delved deeper into the personal and institutional factors that would shape the Duke of Edinburgh title's future. The legal framework provided the structure, but the real story lay in the people who would bring that framework to life. 3 weeks after her meeting with Professor MacLeod, Sarah Mitchell found herself in the elegant drawing room of Bagshot Park, the Surrey home of Prince Edward and Sophie, Countess of Wessex. The invitation had come through official channels after her research had been brought to the attention of the royal household. They were interested in ensuring that any historical analysis of the Duke of Edinburgh title was accurate and comprehensive. Prince Edward greeted Sarah with warmth and genuine curiosity about her research. Despite the formal setting, the atmosphere was relaxed and conversational. Sophie joined them for tea, and Sarah immediately sensed the strong partnership between the couple. Their interaction suggested years of working together on shared goals and facing challenges as a team. My father always said that the Duke of Edinburgh title should be about action, not ceremony, Edward began, settling into his chair with the easy confidence of someone comfortable in his own home. He believed that privilege came with responsibility, and that responsibility meant making a real difference in people's lives. Sarah asked about Edward's earliest memories of his father's work with the award scheme. Edward's face lit up as he recalled family conversations about the program's development and expansion. Even as a young child, he had been aware that his father's work was somehow different from typical royal duties. I remember dinner table discussions about whether the award was working in different countries, how to adapt it to different cultures, and what changes might be needed, Edward recalled. My father was constantly thinking about how to improve the program, how to reach more young people, and how to ensure it remained relevant. These family discussions had given Edward unique insights into Philip's approach to leadership and innovation. Philip hadn't been content to simply put his name on an existing program. He had been actively involved in every aspect of its development and operation. This hands-on approach had shaped Edward's own understanding of what it meant to hold the Duke of Edinburgh title. Sophie added her perspective on the transition they had been preparing for. We've been fortunate to work closely with the award scheme for many years, she explained. That experience has shown us both the incredible impact the program can have and the enormous responsibility that comes with overseeing it. Sarah learned that Edward and Sophie had been gradually increasing their involvement with the award scheme over the past decade. This wasn't just ceremonial participation. They had been working with program administrators, meeting with international partners, and developing their own understanding of the challenges facing the organization. Edward described a recent visit to a school in Tanzania where he had met young people participating in the award program. The experience had reinforced his understanding of how the program worked across different cultures and economic circumstances. Seeing those young people's confidence grow through the program was incredibly moving, he said. It reminded me why my father was so passionate about this work. The conversation turned to the practical challenges of potentially inheriting the Duke of Edinburgh title. Edward was frank about the complexities involved, both legal and operational. The constitutional questions are important, but they're ultimately for others to resolve, he explained. My focus has been on preparing to serve effectively if and when the opportunity arises. This preparation had involved extensive consultation with legal experts, charitable organizations, and international partners. Edward had been building relationships and developing expertise that would be crucial if he became the next Duke of Edinburgh. His approach was methodical and thorough, reflecting the serious way he viewed the potential responsibility. Sophie described her own preparation for the role she would play as the wife of the Duke of Edinburgh. She had been expanding her charitable work and developing expertise in areas that complemented Edward's interests. Her background in public relations and communications would be valuable assets in promoting the award scheme and other ducal activities. The Duke of Edinburgh title isn't just about one person, Sophie emphasized. It's about creating a team that can effectively support the various programs and initiatives associated with the role. That requires different skills and perspectives working together. Sarah was struck by how thoughtfully the couple had approached their potential future responsibilities. Rather than simply waiting to see what would happen, they had been actively preparing for years. This preparation included both practical skills development and deeper reflection on how they might honor Philip's legacy while adding their own contributions. Edward shared his vision for how the Duke of Edinburgh's award might evolve in the coming decades. He saw opportunities to expand digital delivery methods, increase accessibility for young people with disabilities, and develop stronger connections between participants in different countries. His ideas built on Philip's foundation while addressing contemporary challenges. The world has changed dramatically since my father created the award in 1956, Edward noted. Young people face different challenges now: climate change, technological disruption, social media pressure. The award needs to evolve to remain relevant while maintaining its core principles. This evolution would require careful balance between innovation and tradition. Edward understood that the award's strength came from its proven framework and international recognition. Any changes would need to enhance rather than undermine these existing strengths. The couple also discussed their thoughts on the broader symbolic role of the Duke of Edinburgh. They recognized that the title carried responsibilities beyond the award scheme, including representation of the Crown in Scotland and support for various other charitable causes. Edward had been quietly building relationships in Scotland, attending events, and meeting with local leaders. He understood that the Duke of Edinburgh needed to be more than just a title holder. He needed to be genuinely engaged with Scottish communities and interested in Scottish issues. Scotland has such a rich history and vibrant culture, Edward said. The Duke of Edinburgh has the privilege of representing that heritage while also supporting its future development. That's a responsibility I would take very seriously. Sarah asked about the timeline for potentially inheriting the title. Edward was diplomatically vague about the legal processes involved, but suggested that decisions would be made in due course. These matters require careful consideration and proper consultation, he said. The important thing is ensuring that the transition, whenever it happens, serves the best interests of the programs and people involved. The conversation revealed the depth of thought and preparation that had gone into planning for this potential transition. Rather than being driven by personal ambition or family politics, the approach seemed focused on ensuring continuity and effectiveness in serving the public good. As the afternoon progressed, Sarah gained a deeper appreciation for the human dimensions of the Duke of Edinburgh title succession. The The legal and constitutional questions were important, but the real story involved people committed to public service and making a positive difference in the world. Edward and Sophie's approach suggested that they understood both the honor and the burden of potentially inheriting Philip's legacy. They weren't seeking to simply continue his work unchanged, but to build on his foundation while addressing contemporary challenges and opportunities. The visit concluded with Edward showing Sarah through some of the awards and memorabilia from his father's work. Each item had a story, representing young people whose lives had been touched by the Duke of Edinburgh's award or other initiatives associated with the title. "This is what it's really about," Edward said, holding a thank you letter from an award participant who had gone on to start a charitable organization. The title, the ceremonies, the constitutional questions, they're all just mechanisms for creating opportunities like this. As Sarah prepared to leave Bagshot Park, she reflected on how this personal perspective had enriched her understanding of the Duke of Edinburgh title's significance. The succession question wasn't just about legal precedents or family preferences. It was about finding the best way to continue a legacy of service that had already touched millions of lives around the world. Her research was beginning to reveal not just what might happen to the Duke of Edinburgh title, but why it mattered and how those involved were working to ensure that whatever changes came would serve the greater good. The story was becoming more complex and more human with each new insight. 6 months later, Sarah Mitchell stood in the ornate stateroom at Buckingham Palace, her research complete, but her curiosity more intense than ever. The occasion was a reception celebrating the achievements of Duke of Edinburgh's award participant from around the world, and it provided the perfect opportunity to observe the complex dynamics surrounding the title's future. King Charles III moved through the gathering with practiced ease, stopping to speak with young award recipients and their families. Sarah noticed how he carefully acknowledged the connection between these achievements and his father's legacy, while also recognizing the current leadership of the award organization. His approach suggested someone very conscious of the symbolic weight of his words and actions. The reception brought together representatives from over 50 countries where the award operated, creating a living demonstration of Prince Philip's international legacy. Sarah observed the genuine enthusiasm these international partners showed when discussing the program's impact in their communities. This wasn't polite, diplomatic conversation. These were people describing real transformations in young people's lives. Dr. Ruth Marker, the chief executive of the Duke of Edinburgh's award, approached Sarah during the reception. They had corresponded during Sarah's research, and Dr. Marker had agreed to share insights into the operational challenges facing the organization. As they found a quiet corner, Dr. Marker's perspective added crucial practical dimensions to Sarah's understanding. The succession question affects more than just ceremonial aspects, Dr. Marker explained. Our international partners look to the Duke of Edinburgh for leadership and continuity. They need to know that the program will continue to have royal patronage and support at the highest level. This operational reality added urgency to resolving the title's future. The award scheme operated through a complex network of partnerships with governments, educational institutions, and voluntary organizations worldwide. These relationships depended on confidence in the program's stability and continued royal connection. Dr. Marker described how different countries had different relationships with the British monarchy, which affected how they viewed the award program. In some Commonwealth countries, the royal connection was a significant advantage in gaining government support and public recognition. In other countries, the focus was more on the program's educational benefits and practical outcomes. Prince Philip understood these nuances, Dr. Marker noted. He knew when to emphasize the royal connection and when to focus on practical benefits. The next Duke of Edinburgh will need similar diplomatic sensitivity. Sarah learned that the award organization had been working closely with Prince Edward for several years to prepare for potential leadership transition. This preparation included detailed briefings on international operations, financial management, and strategic planning. Edward had demonstrated serious commitment to understanding every aspect of the organization's work. The preparation process had included visits to award operations in different countries, meetings with government officials, and participation in strategic planning sessions. Edwards' approach was thorough and professional, earning respect from award staff and international partners alike. As the reception continued, Sarah had the opportunity to speak with several international representatives about their experiences working with the award program. Their stories provided powerful evidence of Philip's lasting impact and insights into what they hoped from future leadership. Maria Santos, who managed the award program in Brazil, described how it had grown from a small pilot project to a national program reaching thousands of young people. Prince Philip visited U.S. 3 times, she recalled. Each time, he learned something new about our culture and how we had adapted the award to serve our young people. That flexibility and respect for local conditions was crucial to our success. Similar stories emerged from representatives from Australia, Canada, Kenya, and other countries. In each case, Philip's leadership style had combined strong commitment to core principles with genuine respect for local adaptation and innovation. This balance had been key to the program's international success. James Mackenzie, who had worked with the award in Scotland for over 30 years, offered a different perspective on the Duke of Edinburgh title's significance. In Scotland, the title represents more than just the award program, he explained. It's about the connection between the crown and Scottish identity, and the role of the monarchy in supporting Scottish communities. This Scottish dimension added another layer of complexity to the succession question. The next Duke of Edinburgh would need to understand and respect Scottish culture while representing the broader United Kingdom. This required diplomatic skills that went beyond traditional charitable work. Sarah noticed that throughout the reception, there was frequent mention of Prince Edward's involvement with various award activities. International representatives spoke positively about their interactions with him, and award staff clearly viewed him as a knowledgeable and committed supporter. This widespread recognition suggested that his potential succession would be welcomed by those most directly affected. The conversation with Dr. Marker revealed that the award organization had been quietly planning for leadership transition for several years. "We couldn't wait for official announcements," she explained. "The program's success depends on continuity, so we've been working to ensure smooth transition whenever it happens." This planning had included succession frameworks for key staff positions, updates to governance structures, and strengthening of financial management systems. The organization was positioning itself to maintain stability and effectiveness regardless of changes in royal patronage. Sarah also learned about discussions regarding potential expansion of the award program into new countries and communities. Several government delegations had expressed interest in introducing the program, but these negotiations required consistent leadership and long-term commitment. Resolution of the succession question would enable more aggressive international expansion. As the reception drew to a close, Sarah reflected on how this event had demonstrated the living reality of Prince Philip's legacy. The Duke of Edinburgh title wasn't just a historical artifact or constitutional curiosity. It was connected to real programs serving real people around the world. The young award participants she had met represented Philip's vision in action. They came from diverse backgrounds and countries, but all had been shaped by experiences rooted in his belief that young people needed challenges and adventures to develop their full potential. Their achievements validated his approach and created pressure to ensure his legacy continued effectively. Sarah noticed that King Charles concluded his remarks at the reception with specific recognition of Prince Edward's role in supporting the award program. While diplomatically phrased, this public acknowledgement seemed significant. It suggested that official recognition of Edward's future role might be approaching. The king would need to balance family wishes, constitutional propriety, and practical considerations about the title's future effectiveness. As she prepared to leave Buckingham Palace that evening, Sarah realized that her research had revealed a story much more complex and meaningful than she had initially expected. The Duke of Edinburgh title succession wasn't just about legal procedures or family arrangements. It was about sustaining a legacy that had already transformed millions of lives and ensuring it could continue to do so for future generations. The various perspectives she had gathered, legal, operational, personal, and international, all pointed toward the same conclusion. The title's future success would depend on finding someone with a vision, commitment, and skills to build on Prince Philip's foundation while adapting to contemporary challenges and opportunities. From everything Sarah had observed and learned, Prince Edward appeared to be that person. His years of preparation, his understanding of the award program, and his commitment to public service suggested he could effectively carry the Duke of Edinburgh legacy forward. The question was no longer whether he was suitable, but when and how his appointment would be formally recognized. The story of the Duke of Edinburgh title was approaching a crucial transition point, one that would determine whether Prince Philip's remarkable legacy could continue to evolve and grow in service of young people around the world. On a crisp March morning in 2023, Sarah Mitchell received an unexpected phone call that would provide the perfect conclusion to her research. The royal correspondent at the Times was calling to inform her that Buckingham Palace had just announced that King Charles III would be creating Prince Edward as the new Duke of Edinburgh on his 59th birthday, honoring both Prince Philip's wishes and the careful preparation that had been underway for years. The announcement sent ripples of excitement through the royal watching community and international award organization networks. Sarah immediately began making calls to the various people who had contributed to her research, eager to capture their reactions to this long-awaited news. Professor MacLeod was delighted with the resolution of the constitutional questions that had puzzled experts for so long. This approach elegantly solves all the legal complications, he explained over the phone, by creating a new Duke of Edinburgh title rather than transferring the old one. The king has avoided the constitutional ambiguities while achieving the desired outcome. The new letters patent would create Edward as Duke of Edinburgh for his lifetime, with the title reverting to the crown upon his death rather than passing to his children. This arrangement ensured that the title would remain available for future royal family members, while giving Edward full authority to shape its role during his tenure. Dr. Marker from the Duke of Edinburgh's award was equally pleased with the news. "This provides the continuity and leadership we've been preparing for," she said. "Prince Edward's years of involvement with our work mean he can step into this role with complete understanding of our operations and goals." The announcement had been timed to coincide with the annual celebration of the Duke of Edinburgh's award, creating powerful symbolism about continuity and renewal. Award participants around the world would now have a new patron who understood their experiences and was committed to expanding opportunities for future participants. Sarah arranged to attend the investiture ceremony where Edward would officially receive his new title. The event at Windsor Castle brought together representatives from across the Commonwealth and beyond, emphasizing the international dimensions of the Duke of Edinburgh role. The ceremony itself was relatively simple but deeply meaningful. King Charles presented Edward with the insignia of his new title while speaking about the responsibilities and opportunities it represented. The king's remarks emphasized both the honor being bestowed and the serious commitment to public service it entailed. "The Duke of Edinburgh title represents more than noble rank," the king said during the ceremony. "It represents a commitment to young people, to innovation within tradition, and to service that transcends national boundaries. I have complete confidence that Edward will honor this legacy while adding his own distinctive contributions." Edward's response was characteristically thoughtful and humble. He acknowledged the privilege of inheriting his father's legacy while recognizing the responsibility it brought. From Australia, John Robertson, who managed the award program across the Asia-Pacific region, was optimistic about working with the new Duke of Edinburgh. "Prince Edward has visited our programs several times over the years," he explained. "He understands our challenges and opportunities, and he's shown genuine interest in our innovations and adaptations." Similar positive responses came from representatives of other countries. The years of preparation and relationship building that Edward and Sophie had invested were clearly paying dividends in terms of international confidence and support. Sarah also observed how the transition was being received by young people currently participating in award programs. At a celebration event following the investiture, she spoke with several award participants who had met both Prince Philip and Prince Edward during their journeys through the program. Jessica Chun, a Gold Award recipient from Singapore, offered a perspective that captured the feelings of many young participants. Prince Philip always seemed genuinely interested in our experiences and what we were learning, she said. Prince Edward has the same quality. When he asks questions, you can tell he really wants to understand and help improve the program. These personal connections between the Duke of Edinburgh and award participants represented the heart of what made the role so meaningful. The title wasn't just about ceremonial duties or administrative oversight. It was about inspiring and supporting young people on their personal development journeys. As the celebrations continued into the evening, Sarah reflected on how her research had evolved from historical investigation into a contemporary story of continuity and change. The Duke of Edinburgh title succession had been resolved not through dramatic constitutional crisis, but through careful preparation, thoughtful planning, and genuine commitment to public service. The new Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh faced significant challenges in their new roles. The award program needed expansion into new countries and communities while maintaining quality and relevance in existing markets. Climate change, technological disruption, and social inequality created new contexts for youth development that required innovative responses. Edward had already begun outlining his vision for addressing these challenges. His plans included expanding digital delivery methods to reach young people in remote areas, developing specialized programs for young people with disabilities, and creating stronger connections between award participants in different countries. The international expansion strategy was particularly ambitious. Several countries in Africa, Asia, and Latin America had expressed interest in introducing the award program, but these developments required sustained leadership and careful cultural adaptation. Edward's diplomatic skills and international relationships would be crucial to these efforts. Sarah's conversation with the new Duke during the evening reception provided final insights into his approach to the role. "My father always said that the award needed to evolve to remain relevant," Edward explained. "That evolution continues now, guided by the same principles, but adapted to contemporary realities." The Duke's vision included stronger integration between the award program and formal education systems, expanded partnerships with employers and universities, and enhanced recognition for participant achievements. These developments built on existing foundations while addressing current challenges in youth development and education. Sophie's parallel work focused on expanding opportunities for young women and addressing gender-specific challenges in youth development. Her background in communications and her understanding of contemporary social issues positioned her to make distinctive contributions to the ducal team's overall effectiveness. As Sarah prepared to conclude her research and write her final report, she realized that the Duke of Edinburgh title story represented much more than a simple succession narrative. It demonstrated how traditional institutions could adapt and evolve while maintaining their essential purposes and values. The careful preparation that had preceded Edward's appointment, the thoughtful resolution of constitutional questions, and the clear vision for the role's future all suggested that Prince Philip's legacy was in capable hands. The Duke of Edinburgh title would continue to evolve, but its fundamental commitment to young people's development and potential would remain unchanged. The final chapter of Sarah's research had become the first chapter of a new era for the Duke of Edinburgh title. Prince Philip's transformation of an ancient hereditary title into a modern force for youth development had been successfully passed to the next generation, ready to meet whatever challenges and opportunities the future might bring. Standing in the gardens of Windsor Castle as the investiture celebrations drew to a close, Sarah understood that she had witnessed not just the resolution of a constitutional question, but the continuation of a remarkable story of service, innovation, and hope for young people around the world. The Duke of Edinburgh title had found its future, and that future looked bright indeed.